Welcome to Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. After a catastrophic truck crash, trust Grant Lawson of the law firm for truck safety, board certified, nationally recognized with millions recovered and relentless advocacy for your justice. Visit truckaccidents.com today. Well, when we take a look at overall the big picture of things, well, the changes are on schedule. Another beautiful shot of the Aurora Borealis with satellite track there going across the screen, as we did see a little bit of an increase in activity briefly the night before. So a couple of nights in a row of some aurora viewing. Now the Arctic air is beginning to make its move in Canada. We'll show you that. The forecasts are basically holding steady. So now, as the expression goes, the devil is in the details. It's all about the little things. And really, for the most part, what we're going to see here in the Intermountain West and the Western High Plains is pretty straightforward. An Arctic front, a little bit of light snow, some very cold temperatures and wind chills, and some of the coldest temperatures of the winter season finally coming on in. But it's going to be the other parts of the country where just a few miles can make the difference between rain and freezing rain, and either freezing rain or heavy snow. We don't have to worry about that here, but you're going to see some fluctuations in the forecast, but overall the big picture isn't changing. This is going to be a big event. Livestock interest, be prepared. Now, for a lot of you, we haven't had to deal with any really prolonged cold or anything more than cold than a day or two, but we'll put together multiple days of very cold temperatures and very cold wind chills. We will avoid the really severe cold, but it's still going to be plenty cold, and we are going to be looking at some harsh winter weather conditions. And it is looking like these Arctic waves will just continue into the central and eastern United States all the way up through the end of the month. I tell you, the weather over the eastern half of the country and the central U.S. and the southern U.S., it's just going to be not just this storm over the next 4 to 5 days, but there are more coming. And the western edges of those Arctic air masses could push into parts of the Rockies, depending on how they come out of Canada. So the last 9-10 days of the month will be a lot more active, especially for the central and the east. Another beautiful shot there of the aurora over the Wind River Mountains near Pinedale. And some wave clouds forming there in Idaho, where it's been severe clear there for quite a while. So lots to show you on the satellite imagery. I don't want to forget about this little upper level low off the California coast, because this upper level low is going to finally bring some snow to Colorado's south central and southwest mountains, the mountains of New Mexico, the mountains of Arizona, a little bit in southern California, and it's feeding moisture into the pattern. It's the Gulf moisture that's going to make the big difference. But this little guy right here is playing a role in bringing a little bit of snow to the equation. You see the blue clouds up here? These are the blue clouds, or the stratus clouds, the low clouds forming along the Arctic boundary pushing into Montana. You can see fog, extensive fog in the Snake River Valley there in Idaho. But to really get a perspective of things, we're going to show you a satellite photo that has an east perspective. And the water vapor here, you can see that upper level low in California very well. So doesn't look like much on the 500 millibar chart, but it is going to be a player as things now are getting a lot more interesting. So when we take a look at the other satellite imagery, we're doing infrared here, which is sensing temperature. Now, some of the blue streaks and the green streaks you see here are indeed clouds, like down here. But I want you to look up here into Manitoba and Saskatchewan and up in the northeastern areas of Alberta as we get up closer here to the very high latitudes. You see this area right here? This is your Arctic blob. This is where intense Arctic air is. Also, intense Arctic air is right up here. Notice, look real closely. You can see how it moves. You see the Arctic air? It's moving. It's making its move, pushing into areas of North Dakota here this morning, into northern Minnesota, and then making its plunge. And then this western edge is what's going to back into areas right along the Continental Divide. So the satellite can see, if you tell the satellite to sense temperature, that's how cold it is. When you see these dark blues like this is severe cold. Look at the National Weather Service forecast for winter weather conditions. So basically, what we've got here is that anywhere along and east of this line I'm drawing you, all of these have something to do with winter. Whether it's an extreme cold advisory in the blue, a cold weather advisory in the light blue, or winter storm warnings in the pink, winter storm watches in the blue. Wow, look at the amount of real estate getting covered by that. So we're going to see all of this unfold as we'll take the maps in motion, so to speak. Here's your high. You know, we talked all week about having to have that ridge axis further west, and it's there now. So you can see that it is making room for the colors here to get further west. And there's this upper level low right here. One thing, again, about this upper level low, it is helping to act like a little bit of a magnet to help this Arctic air push a little bit further westward. So this is a real big player in things. So this goes in. Here's your Arctic air mass that I showed you on the satellite imagery, the Arctic tail, so to speak. It comes in and then settles in on Friday. We still have the ridge axis here. And then as we go into Saturday, you can see the ridge axis stays. So the Arctic air just has free reign to come in, even areas along and west of the Continental Divide. And then the Arctic air is going to be leaking in underneath. The north-south component of the Arctic air is going to come in, and it really won't be impeded much. This is going to be throwing moisture this way. We showed you the high near Cuba. The clockwise flow around the high brings Gulf moisture. The counterclockwise flow around the low brings moisture. These two guys right here are big players in the whole equation. What we have is a very simple pattern for a lot of the U.S. right here. It's basically a collision of air masses. When we take a look at where we are on Sunday, you can see that bigger push, that Arctic tail really gets pushed in. And this is where you're going to see severe cold get deep south. There's your high pressure axis, still holding its own. We talked about the head had to be cut off for the Arctic air to be completely defected east. It won't. It's getting really skinny, but this is going to allow the Arctic air to make its plunge. So, as we've been showing you over the last few days, this is where we're going to be with temperature anomalies by 11 a.m. Mountain Time, same time on Friday, and if we go into Saturday for the same time, around 11 a.m. So you can see the purple and the plunge of Arctic air going deeper and deeper south. These are the temperature anomalies by 11 a.m. on Sunday. So you can see the cold air is holding west in the central, up against the divide and getting cold, a little bit colder west of the divide as well. When we take a look at Monday, you can see we start to see the movement of the cold core of Arctic air centered right on the nation's midsection. Now keep in mind, the purple here is what's up near the Arctic Circle now. And if we just follow what it's doing, going Arctic Circle, making its way down, and then holding. And this is something that is going to be a big player all in next week in the central and the eastern United States. So let's look at overnight low temperatures by tomorrow morning. So by tomorrow morning, you can see the minus 30s there in south central Canada, minus 20s in the Dakotas, in the far eastern areas of Montana. The gray line is where temperatures are going to be near zero. The one reason why these areas aren't below zero is cloud cover. And some of that moisture from the California low, weak moisture, but it will cause clouds and overrunning clouds and very light snowfall, and that's keeping temperatures up a bit because of cloud cover. There's going to be a burst of wind as the Arctic wave comes in today, tonight, into tomorrow morning. Nothing like the windstorm that we had last week with that Arctic boundary. It's a little bit of a different setup. So we don't have the intense winds with this Arctic wave as we did a week ago, especially when we had all those blowovers on Interstate 80. Nonetheless, if you take these wind gusts with that Arctic wave, these are the wind chill values just before sunrise tomorrow. Look at those minus 50s, minus 40s. Very, very cold in Nebraska, the Dakotas, eastern Montana, northeastern and central Wyoming. You're going to be very, very cold. And then you can see single digits pushing down near zero along Interstate 70. Blue norther pushing into Texas and eastern areas of New Mexico. By Saturday morning, these are your overnight lows. Again, this area right here is going to have cloud cover because of that overrunning, and that's going to keep temperatures from maybe falling too far below zero. But you can see that wedge of Arctic air extreme. This is not a wind chill value up here. Yikes. Then as we get into the wind chill values by Saturday morning, you can see they're getting pretty extreme and pretty intense. These are the overnight low temperatures by Sunday morning, going well below zero along the Colorado Front Range and elsewhere across the region. Again, a little bit of cloudiness right here may keep that's why there's a little bit of a gap there between there. But if you lose the clouds, you're going below zero. So it's going to be very, very close. These are your wind chill values Sunday morning. If you're headed to the playoff game in Denver, boy, bundle up. It's going to be the coldest game of the season, as you would surmise. 50-degree below zero wind chills possible in south central Canada and the Dakotas. If we take a look at the western United States through Monday morning, these are your precipitation totals. Light upslope conditions along the Arctic boundary. You're looking at only about 1/10 of an inch or so. Some areas a little bit more. Where you see the light green, that's 1/10 of an inch. The darker greens get a little bit more. Thing to remember here, the snow-water ratio when it's this cold. So 1/10 of an inch of water or even a few hundredths of an inch of water will stack up differently and give you a bit more accumulation as opposed, let's say, if it was 32 degrees. So the snow-water equivalents are going to be high, but there's not going to be a lot of water available just because the Arctic air isn't bringing it. But you can see the California low influence. The further south you go, the more moisture you're going to get. We still see this potential for the Colorado mountains here to finally get a good shot of snow. Yay for the ski areas, especially in southwest Colorado and into Angel Fire in the north central areas of New Mexico. Look at the moisture getting down there into El Paso and Big Bend country. When we equate that to snow, I'm using the Kuchera ratio, which takes into account temperature. You see this little band right here near the Pine Ridge into areas near Lusk, and then as you get up into Chadron near Alliance here, the reason is the moisture from the California low is going to be going over the deeper Arctic air that's going to pack in against the higher terrain. Into the sand hills here, where the terrain's just a little bit higher and along that Pine Ridge, the Arctic area will pile up here a bit deeper. That causes a bulge, so to speak, a bulge in the cold air like this. And as that moisture goes over it, you get a narrow band of a little bit of a heavier snow. Now this band may move north or south a bit, but that's why you see that stripe right there. Same up here in near the Billings area where you just have the terrain influence things a little bit more. Then you can see the potential for heavier snow stretching out into the Panhandle, into Oklahoma and Kansas. So let's put things into motion for you to see how the precipitation evolves here over the next 4 to 5 days. And you can see how everything comes together. The Arctic air coming in out of the north, the moisture from the Gulf surging north, the moisture coming from that southwest low. Just see how everything is coming together. And look at all those bright colors there in the south central and central areas of the United States as that Gulf moisture moves in. Let's do this with snow now. And you can see how all of this comes together. And you can see the explosion of the snow as that collision of air mass takes place. This takes us through Tuesday, starting today and going through Tuesday. And you can see how everything comes together here. Now let's do this with the ice. When we put the ice together, you can see the ice storm is still on cue. The devil will be in the details exactly where the freezing rain boundary and the snow boundary will be. That's something you just have to wait till we get through there. But everything is coming together. Look at these ice accumulations in Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. Those are in inches. So you can see how much that ice accumulation can be a problem. And it gets very heavy ice accumulation there in the Carolinas, up into Virginia, maybe even up into Washington, D.C. and New Jersey and into Tennessee and Kentucky. It's just going to be a mess. Have yourself a good day. We will see you tomorrow.